The longest relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with your own mind, and most men have never been formally introduced. Think about that. Every argument you had, every time you checked out at the dinner table, everything you said that you can't take back, all of it started inside before it ever landed on someone else. Today we brought in UK-based meditation Jimmy Wightman, who back in the day, he was a DJ deep in the London nightlife scene, running on chaos for years until that same chaos finally ran him into the ground. So today we'll get into talking about our meditation practice, how it's changed our relationship to ourselves first, and how it's rippled out to everyone who matters. And we'll also talk about different styles of meditation. So if you're new to this, then we'll give you some honest place to start.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
Jimmy, great to have you today. Jon, great to see you as well. Let's have fun.
Yeah, let's do this. So just a couple announcements. All I'm going to say is check the show notes. Our producer is putting everything that we normally say in the announcements in the show notes, so we'll keep it short there. And check out MTM at mentalkingmindfulness.com. That said, Jimmy, we like to start the show off with one breath grounding practice for the three of us here, and then for our audience as well. So let's go ahead and get comfortable, whatever that might look like for you. And let's begin with a nice big exhale, letting that out, really bringing your navel to your spine, and holding empty for a second. And then a nice long, slow, deep breath in, holding full at the top, and just letting that out as a sigh. All right. Well, Will, I'll turn it over to you to kick this off, my friend. And Jimmy, good to see you.
Yeah. Great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, Jimmy, absolutely. It's so let's start with like setting a little bit of a foundation of what meditation has actually kind of did for us. Before we get into relationships, so the data is clear. A consistent meditation practice meaningfully sharpens self-awareness, including the ability to catch a thought or a feeling as it arises before it gets swept away. So that being said, what is like one thing that any of us have noticed now mentally, emotionally, that genuinely we couldn't have done before we had a practice?
I'll tell you, so the big difference for me is that I'm able to observe my experience in real time, which I couldn't really do before. Before, the reactions would come and it would be as if I'm hijacked in the moment. Mm-hmm. And before I knew it, words would be coming out of my mouth, which I'd have to apologize for later, or actions, defensiveness, this kind of thing. But the first time I ever saw mindfulness working in my experience was some years ago. Are you all right if I tell you a quick story just to explain this?
Oh, cool. We love stories. We love stories.
Sure. So I was with an ex-girlfriend, and I've been practicing mindfulness in terms of observing my experience in terms of thoughts, feelings, emotions. And I'd had one of those really bad days. We'd gone into town for some reason, I can't remember what it was, and I'd forgotten the tickets to whatever it was, and I was in trouble with my girlfriend, and we couldn't park, and it was raining. It was just one of those days. And not surprisingly, she got triggered and got upset with me, and she started saying some things, pushing some of my buttons. And I'd been meditating for a while at that point, and suddenly what happened in this moment was, as she was saying these things to me, and as I was feeling really stressed, I suddenly saw in my mind's eye an image of a kid who used to bully me when I was at school.
No way.
I made the instant connection that the way she was talking to me was triggering some emotion, and that emotion was bringing me back to this time when I was a kid and when I was in, being given a hard time by this other kid. And so there was this moment of realization, like, oh, how I'm feeling now in this moment is how I used to feel back then. And at the same time, I heard my own inner monologue kick in and say all these defensive things. Well, you don't understand, blah, blah, blah. I have it worse than you, the whole suffering Olympics. But I didn't say it out loud. I just heard it in my mind, and I thought, oh, in a monologue, in a hearing, I can hear it. And at the same time, this upwelling of emotion, there was this sense of, I want to run away. I want to get away from this. But I didn't. I just felt that. And so all this time spent feeling my emotions, observing my thoughts, it just came online in this perfect moment. I didn't react. I didn't freak out. I didn't say anything that I was going to regret later. And because I stayed grounded in this moment, she stayed connected with me. I managed to hold space for her for a moment so that she could calm down because I stayed regulated. She co-regulated. And before I knew it, the whole thing moved on. And so even though there was this moment of an eruption of inner seeing and a hearing and a feeling, there was also this sense of celebration of like, oh, this is working. I can handle this. And so the rest of the evening went on and it was all great. But the whole night I kept going back to this experience of thinking, oh, wow, like what's going to happen if I keep practicing? How good is this going to get? I'm going to be invincible. So that's what comes to mind. Yeah.
How's that invincibility going?
It turns out it's not as simple as that.
Oh, okay.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, same here.
So yeah, I'm definitely not perfect, and I'm not some kind of a Buddha, but it definitely was what I needed in that moment to spur the practice on, and things have got better and better since then. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it comes with my kids mostly. I'm remarried. I did have a wife before, and she and I did get into it quite regularly, but I was not a meditator at the time. And now I've been meditating for about 11 years regularly. And it has helped me with the kids more than anything. Now I've got a 9-year-old daughter, 7-year-old little boy, and a soon to be 5-year-old little girl. And they inadvertently push buttons. Most of the time it's just kids being kids. And there are times when, to be completely honest, not my proudest moments where I have lost my temper. But you asked about, feeling as it arises before it sweeps you away. There are times I catch myself before it sweeps me away, but there's also times that I don't, but I catch myself in being swept away and I say, okay, stop what you're doing. Take a breath, and then proceed. Right, the old stop, take a breath, observe, proceed, and that has been tremendously helpful with being a father. And my children have noticed it. As a matter of fact, sometimes I have them call me out. I've got this bracelet here. It's a little rubber band bracelet that my little boy made for me, and and I snap it sometimes on my wrist to remind me that I've got kids who love me and I love them, and I want to show them that. And mindfulness is a great way to do that, to show them how important they are, to be present, but also to catch yourself in the moment when you do start to lose it. I see you smiling over there, Will. What's up?
No, I remember back in the day, like they used to have God, probably back in the 80s, they had this rubber band like on the wrist. If you wanted to do a cigarette, you snap the rubber band.
That's right. I remember those.
Oh my God. we stupid Americans, Jimmy, I got to say, like, it's I was like, wow, it brings back some memories. Yeah, I think for me, it just really helps me. I could be very easily triggered. Like, I don't know what or why or how or where it even came from, but I used to be or could be very extremely volatile when I was a kid. Not like I was always going around like picking fights and having arguments and being an asshole. Like, but now, like, I'm able to, like you're saying, Jimmy, and John as well, like I'm able to catch like the feelings that begin to arise inside of me for sure. But what also it's helped me to do meditation, it's really helped me to just become more intentional, right? And I think the presence of meditation has allowed me, instead of always trying to fix or talk over somebody or correct somebody or whatever it's going to be, just to really be present and just see what's going on in the circumstance, and like also realizing, like, do I need to jump in here, or should I help, or should I just keep listening? And it just really continually being more intentional. And a lot of times I'm just kind of especially in my closest relationships, I just kind of sit back a little bit, and it allows me to just kind of observe things a lot more. And when I do need to kind of jump in, instead of reacting, or acting without thinking through the emotional realm, just being more intentional and seeing how I can help or be of service in some ways. or just continue to listen. Is and it's really nice to be able to see how we've all mentioned like that emotion, like the emotion, the rise and fall of emotion, the rising. I know you do Vipassana, Jimmy, right? And Goenka over and over and over again. I've done like, 3 Vipassanas, just like arising and passing away, arising and passing away. And once you kind of know, like that's the experience of whether it's a thought or a feeling, and it's just this too shall pass, like it does. And my meditation practice helped me just to trust that, and come back to the breath, come back to the moment, and just like, discern whether I'm needed or here or not, or should I do anything or not.
Yeah, I'll pivot this a little bit. So we talked about, we all know that mindfulness does slow us down, or it helps us to slow down. And, over time, it can change the quality of the relationships like we've just been talking about. But it can also, just as importantly, or perhaps even more importantly, change that relationship that we have with our inner self. And a 2015 National Institute of Health review by Brian Holzell and colleagues found that mindfulness practice builds a more accurate, less distorted self-view, more self-knowledge, less self-criticism, and a real shift where you stop treating the self like some fixed, rigid thing and start seeing it as something more fluid and honest. And I wanted to know from Jimmy and from you, Will, what's a pattern in yourself that mindfulness helped you to actually realize?
The thing that comes to mind straight away is the people-pleasing tendency.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so I had a really strong people-pleasing tendency where I would sacrifice my own needs to please the other person, but then at the same time resent them for the fact I was doing it. And I did not see this pattern at all. It just seemed, it was so second nature. It had been built up over such a long time. And so I had to learn to feel these feelings, realize what they meant, so there's an interpretation, and then be able to act in a new way in order to rewire the mind and the nervous system so that I wasn't falling back into the habitual patterns. And when I first started to recognize that this was a thing I had to work on and I started doing it, it felt very unsafe. It felt like I was taking a real risk, even though on the surface level, I was really just disagreeing or putting in a boundary or asserting my own needs. Not like high risk situation, but my body felt like it was. So that was really interesting. And then I would also monitor what was happening in my mind in terms of inner seeing, the images in my mind, and mental talk. And a lot of sort of memories from my childhood would be shown to me and things like that in situations where I was trying to rewire these particular bad habits. So yeah, the people-pleasing thing was a big revelation for me, and working through that has paid off really nicely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is one pattern that comes to mind, but there are probably hundreds of others
Sure.
that have also been worked through and still need to be worked through.
Well, what were some of the things you needed to do in order to overcome that? I mean, I imagine you kept practicing and kept realizing, but like, do you have any, because we had Dr. Robert Glover on the show. He wrote a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And a lot of men out there definitely suffer with this, people pleasing and this nice guy kind of thing. It's like, what are some of the things that you needed to kind of move through, if you will? Because I mean, I've set this, I kind of tee this up because it's like, just because you get on meditation doesn't mean it's just going to be a continual, linear progression, to more peace. It's like, you're going to have to really be and see yourself in a way that, oh my God, like you said, like, oh my God, now, this came up. I can't just ignore this. This is like a big part of my DNA. And then you went about to change that.
Well, yeah, I guess it comes down to the way I look at mindfulness is that there's these three components: the concentration, the sensory clarity, and the equanimity. So the concentration is just the ability to pay attention to what you want to pay attention to in the moment. But the sensory clarity is noticing these details in the experience, like I keep mentioning mental images or mental talk or body emotion, things like that. So the more clarity I got in the moment when I was triggered, or where there was a sense of wanting to abandon myself or to do these bad habits, the more clarity I got on those moments, the more I could see why I was being driven to act out certain behaviors.
Mm.
And then along with that is the equanimity, which is the ability to not be pushed or pulled by inner forces. I like to describe it as a magical third option between being reactive and suppressing. So it's like this radical non-interference with what's arising in this moment. And so I would find if I was in a situation where the people-pleasing tendency kicked in, there'd be certain aspects of my experience that I'd notice, like certain images in the mind, or the inner monologue would kick in and start talking. But before I let those words come out of my mouth, I would hopefully try and notice that that is arising, and then not get stuck in the story that's being told, but get to observe the contour of the experience, the fact that it's coming in bursts, or notice something about this inner monologue rather than just being identified with it as being me and then expressing it immediately. And then the equanimity is really, for me, that sense of there's something arising in this moment. It might be a sense of aversion, like I want to run away from this situation, or a craving for something better, or just a general feeling of being unsafe, like a pressure in the chest or an anxiety. If I can feel that fully and turn towards it and allow it to be there, but without reacting or suppressing, then I can kind of stay in the fire of this moment and choose what to say next and choose what to do next from this place of being conscious. So I had to train myself to do it, because when these difficult thoughts, feelings, and emotions arise, the natural tendency is for the old mechanisms to kick in and to agree and do whatever you usually do. So slowly but surely I would rewire these things by staying in that discomfort and acting out from a new place. Yeah, I can tell that you guys have also been through similar things by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
For sure.
Well, no, I love like you mentioned equanimity, and like sitting in the fire and leaning in, and instead of like running away or being triggered by it, or wanting it to be different, or like lashing out or getting angry or frustrated with yourself. It's like, it's like one thing that's really helped me, and to kind of access where you were just talking about, Jimmy, is like I've really needed to slow down. Like I would walk fast, I would talk fast. Like this is one of the patterns I've seen, John. Like it's just, and I'm still work with it. I mean, this has been 20 some years in the making of just really trying to slow down. I see it all the time, and still in many different places. It's amazing, Jimmy, after I come back from like a 10-day Vipassana, like everything is like fantastic. There's something about like, putting in all that work, which is not, again, a linear progression to more bliss. It is some of the most difficult work I've ever done in my entire life, sitting for 10 days in silence and meditating for 100 hours over that period of time. But just like knowing when I'm going fast is a pattern I keep seeing, and then understanding what it takes to just slow down in the moment. A lot of that for me is like finding my breath, feeling my feet on the ground, but also realizing, what a mantra, kind of inner mantra that I have, inner monologue that I have is like, you're doing the best you can, stick with the program, stick with your schedule, one thing at a time instead of trying to do 10 things at once. So again, patterns, and it's, I'm sure a lot of men can recognize that in themselves for sure, but what we're both kind of talking about. John, you got anything? Or
well,
John's actually perfect, Jimmy. Like,
but basically,
we're all trying to be, all trying to be John, right?
No,
He goes, yeah.
poor day. I feel bad for Will, because Will does move at a million miles an hour quite often, and so do I. But sometimes we're moving in a million miles an hour in the opposite direction,
Squared.
and we're business partners. So anyhow, I want to. So that people pleasing, that's a huge one, Jimmy. I've got that one too. And Will talked about, what that looked like once you identified that. What did you do? You told a story about your previous girlfriend when you actually implemented that mindfulness in the moment. Do you have an example of maybe a real specific moment where you handled something or someone differently because of now setting those boundaries? And how did you go about that? And I guess really, how did you feel about going about that? Because I know when I set boundaries, I'm like, oh man, I come across as such a jerk. But then most of the time I get an email or a text that's saying, hey, good for you for respecting your boundaries. Good for you for standing up for yourself. So, I'm just curious what that looked like in your life.
Yeah, it shows up sometimes in family situations or sometimes even with one-on-one meditation coaching. You take somebody on and you're really excited to
Mm.
work with them, and suddenly every week they want to reschedule something or they want to, change something. So it shows up in really, really small ways. And at the beginning of that journey, I found that I would just do whatever I could to accommodate people in any possible
Mm.
way. And I would always um, put myself out because it felt like the right thing to do. And I don't know where I got that from, but when I started to change that kind of behavior, yeah, it was very uncomfortable. But the way I see it is that that discomfort is training. So as
Right. Oh,
long as
no
I could
kidding.
reframe it in that way, then it always kind of felt, in a sense, good because
Yeah.
my approach is that whatever happens, just recycle the reaction. So be mindful of the reaction. So
Mm.
whenever I'm confronted with an uncomfortable situation, as long as I can work through it mindfully, I can also have this great feeling of this is making things better for the future because the whole system is being rewired in this moment, and all of these uncomfortable sort of beliefs that I'm holding are sort of being reconditioned through the practice in the moment. So
Mm.
I do think something really magical and special happens when you get to the point in your practice where you do start to sort of welcome discomfort, and you start to sort of say, oh, okay, there's an uncomfortable feeling here. I'm not just going to
Mm.
manage it, but I'm going to really turn towards it and fully feel it and
Mm.
allow it in. Like you were saying before, Will, you talk to yourself in your mind and say, you've got this, you can handle this. I often say to myself things like, everything's welcome, everything's allowed. I probably say that to myself, 20 times a day. Because every time something comes up and there's a slight feeling of aversion, everything's welcome, everything's allowed. And I'm just
Yeah.
going to relax into it. And if there's anything uncomfortable, I'll soften around it. But
Right.
my overall goal is to try not to fight with anything in my experience.
Yes.
So yeah, there's lots of little small things that come up in terms of, the people pleasing and these dysfunctional behaviors. But that's my general approach, to try and open up and turn towards everything if possible.
Yeah.
Nice.
It really, I have definitely have a pattern of behavior that I continually try to work with all the time. And so what you're kind of saying, Jimmy, as far as like, leaning in, being with, noticing your emotion. I love that you have this, like, what's so nice about, kind of what we're building here is like, we understand that relationship to ourselves, and then we go out in the world and we have those same experiences that are coming, not from internal triggers, but from the outside world. You have tools. You have a way that you're speaking to yourself that is very empowering, that allows you to actually be in the circumstance instead of trying. One of the things that I battle with is like trying to kind of control things, like, oh, I want it this way, I want it that way. And I think, I know that John's laughing because he fucking knows it, right? I'm like, and with John and I are in therapy again right now with you, Jimmy, and it's just like, but I'm like, and like what you're saying, Jimmy, is so true. It's like, everything is going to work itself out. It's like, there's a heck of a lot more than one ways to do things. And sometimes just by me easing back, me letting go of those emotions, and just like, let's just see, like, what will happen. I do, I don't let, there is something like, I don't want this to happen. So if it's going that way, then I got to kind of bring myself into that circumstance and kind of pull like, and maybe shift the tide or shift the current a little bit, shift the energy. But overall, I mean, as long as it's not going to like hurt anybody, or, if it's only going to hurt my ego, then what's the difference? It doesn't, I can let that go. I can let that float by. And, I think I know I'm better for it, and everyone else around me is going to be a little bit better for it too. But also, I think it can create meaningful discussion if you're actually going to kind of work from a place of like, hey, help me understand, instead of wanting to control, which is a huge difference.
Continuing with that wanting to control,
Mm-hmm.
quite often that want to control and then somebody not being controlled can cause a reaction on our side, right? We want to react to them not doing what we said, or with them not doing what we want them to do, and that can clearly, rightly so, uh, kill relationships, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would say, it's not these giant blowups that we all have. I mean, maybe it is, but a lot of the time, I think men specifically destroy our relationships through this kind of chronic low grade reactivity, this snapping, this shutting down, kind of half listening, checking out, stonewalling, right? And as I believe the three of us know, right, the mindfulness works on the nervous system by activating that prefrontal cortex, and that helps us to respond versus react. And kind of inject an intentional gap between the stimulus and the response. And Will, we've talked about Viktor Frankl on the show before, and he talks about the gap being where that freedom lives, right? And meditation is one of the cleanest ways to widen that gap. Now, that said, it's not a panacea. It doesn't make us Zen all the time. I'm curious from you guys, what still triggers you, and whether that's in a relationship or I'll tell you, we had an episode not too long ago about what if anger is the answer, and I had basically narrowed down what frustrates me into 4 or 5 buckets, and the number one is when my expectations aren't met. So if there's a way for me to just let all my expectations go of Will, then then I think I wouldn't get angry anymore. But I'm just curious from you guys, what still triggers you guys in your relationships? Kind of what still gets past that practice?
Oh, John, I mean, did that come out loud? Did that come out? Sorry. Like,
all right, Jimmy, what about you, my friend?
Well, there isn't a specific thing, but I can tell you that if I sleep badly, if I'm very tired, then
great point.
Then it's much harder to be mindful. It's much harder to be able to observe instead of reacting. So thankfully, I got into meditation because I had an insomnia problem. Meditation sort of solved that for me, and so it's great. But there are still nights when I don't sleep well. There may be car alarm goes off or something where I live, or sometimes, I probably shouldn't say this, but sometimes my wife snores quite loudly.
Mouth tape.
We'll edit that out.
Mouth tape.
It's all right, she won't listen to this. And so it's kind of like, if I've had a really bad night's sleep or whatever, if I've flown somewhere on a plane, then bringing practice and bringing that state of being into my experience in the moment to be able to process things quickly, observe instead of react, I find that it's much harder, and I'm much more likely to be emotionally hijacked or to snap, like you said, little snappy things, or be a bit more moody. If the nervous system is amped up, or if I'm really, really tired. So in those situations, the main thing to do is to try and use some practice just to intentionally down-regulate the nervous system as much as possible, and try and get some of that deep rest. Even if if I can't sleep.
What do you do in those moments where you're not slept, right? But you feel that moment, that trigger coming online. Like, what do you do to regulate in the moment? What are some of your techniques that you use in order to kind of be more present instead of like reactive?
So with me, I would stay with the grounding sensations. So I'm always somehow in contact with something that feels grounding. For at the moment, it would be the feeling of the chair underneath me, the feet on the floor, the feeling of the breath. Very, very simple things that I can stay with. And I practice these things sort of in the sitting practice. So I don't think these things work that well if you just try and use them in the moment when you're stressed. If you practice them in the sitting practice and you get used to these are my go-to places, then in the moment when you're triggered, you can bring in what you've been practicing. So that tends 100%. To be, for me, it's either the grounding sensations in the body, or sometimes the hearing sensations, the sound of birds, something like that. So it's really the I sometimes talk about the inner system being images in the mind, mental talk, and body emotion. Things outside of me tend to be more grounding. So like physical sensations or sound of birds or the visual image in front of me, the scene in front of me or the person in front of me. If I tend to stay in seeing out, hearing out, feeling out, that tends to be a bit more grounding and less triggering than being with the inner system. Yeah.
I love
Sure.
it. Yeah. Well, you build that foundation by, a daily practice, right? Sitting, getting to know, when I'm teaching, I try to let my students know what we're really trying to do is like, remember that we have this great natural peace that's already inside of us. It's how everything is already designed on the outside. It's how we're designed on the inside. And we're continually coming back and creating a deeper relationship to that peace, but also like, I call it like something like a reference point, like just come in, like be here with that peace. And if you're able to experience that, whether you're sitting for once a day or twice a day, or, hopefully, for your rest of your life, or several times a week and throughout the entire year, you're gonna, what that is. Like, not just here, what the experience is of peace. And because your vibration, is also of a peaceful nature when you're sitting, and just being as you're meditating. But then that all said, then I get around my family and, and they seem like, and I heard a long time ago, like, if you think you've achieved some sort of state of enlightenment, go hang out with your family for 5 days. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and that's why I only do 4 days with them, so I don't actually murder all of them.
Wait till
Just
you live
kidding.
with your family.
God, I know. I'm like, oh boy. So, I think it's just, for me, one of the big things that I see come up in me with them is I just get impatient, and it's hard to just let it go sometimes. And I literally just breathe. I keep my mouth shut. I bite my lip a lot when I'm home, and again, I just coming back to like this whole experience and this mantra of like, this too shall pass. Just let it go, Will. Don't engage. You're not going to help anything if you open your big fucking mouth. Just keep your mouth shut and don't be an asshole. And and it works sometimes. Maybe I'm about 50% of the time it's working right now, but the other 50%, I go and F things up, and then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. So, yeah,
Right there with you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, my poor parents, God bless them. And they do listen to the show, so hopefully they're going to listen to this little this little clip here. But yeah, I go home and I've stopped staying at home. I stay in a hotel when I go and visit.
Yeah.
Because I still need my space to get away. But if I'm around my parents, they're just being themselves, and they're older, so there's my father can't hear very well, and my mom will say something and he won't respond, and then I feel it's like my duty to be like, Dad, did you not hear that? And I'm like, God, I'm an asshole. But that's neither here nor there. I won't go too far down that random rabbit hole. Will, I think you got the next question, my friend.
Well, anything else you want to say there, Jimmy?
Yeah, I was just thinking something actually about how strong emotions can arise in me, but the big difference between how it is now and how it used to be before all of this practice is the way that there's less identification with the emotion. So it used to be the case that I would feel like, oh, I am this anger, or I am this whatever is arising in the moment, this shame. Now there is a sense that this shame or anger, whatever it is, can arise, but it doesn't seem to have an owner in the way that it used to. And it's kind of a hard thing to talk about, because I often wonder when I talk like this if people will understand, or if it just sounds too weird. But I thought I'd throw it out there because you guys have been practicing for a long time as well, and I just wondered if that resonates with you.
You mean having an owner of your feelings? Is that, or
Well,
like not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
sorry,
if it doesn't necessarily point back to a someone in the way that it used to. It's just arising, it's expressing, and it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the show with guests, and we talked about that with just the two of us before, is that quite often in the past, I mean, I just did it. I literally just did it when I said, God, I'm an asshole. We
You
define
are.
we
just,
we define
I love you.
ourselves. we quite often define ourselves by those thoughts.
Right.
But mindfulness can separate,
Yeah.
and rather than saying I am an asshole, I
Yeah.
can say I'm being an asshole, or those actions. Those actions are the actions that an asshole would take, right? And
There you go.
that helps with the shame, right? Because what is it? The difference between guilt and shame is being guilty for doing something, and shame is being guilty for being something, right?
Or yeah, or
And
existing.
yeah, yeah. And I think that distinction between I am and I'm being is huge.
Yeah.
And then you can carry yourself without that deep shame, and then you do show up differently in relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
because if you carry a heavy shame, you're going to show up in a way that is heavy, and
Yeah.
people don't want to be around that. So
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think also the other point, like you're talking, John, about like, speaking to yourself and letting go of ownership of how you're feeling, but also the other aspect or outside is true too. We say a lot of times like, you're making me upset, you're making me angry, right? Where it's just like, so instead of then you're ascribing or giving your power and your feelings and your responsibility to somebody else, instead of being like, oh, I am upset, I am triggered, like I am feeling frustrated or impatient or something like that. It's just, that doesn't mean the other person has done anything wrong at all. And even if they did, it's just like, you're still just having a feeling. Like, do you have to feel that way? And this is like, again, another beautiful part of why this practice is just so incredibly powerful for anybody that like makes the time to do it, because it's just like, you're going to be able to see this emotional realm and this thinking realm is not really who you are. It's just like, it's there. The brain is a tool that helps us to navigate the world, and if we use it effectively, instead of it being, the brain kind of being worked on against us, we can really do a lot of great things. Same thing with our feelings. Like, if we are able to understand our feelings through the practice, right, and then change our relationship to those and just realize arising and passing away, then we can really just make some huge strides, because we're not taking our energy that we are, our awareness, right, and pumping into more thinking, that, creating more catastrophe, growing into more of an emotional response by feeding our energy into more of that emotion. And instead we can just be like, stop. That's the freedom right there, John, right? It's like, stop, the gap between stimulus response and where our freedom of choice is. So then I can choose something a little bit different. Instead of being owned by my thoughts or owned by my feelings or owned by somebody else or owned by a circumstance. So I'm right there with you, Jimmy. I mean, it's just like, it's so empowering. Again, like, I'm batting like 350, you know what I mean? So it's like, or whatever, or whatever cricket go. I don't know what cricket's like, you know,
The analogy.
the analogy for cricket, I don't know, but but 350 is still, I'm still in the major leagues. I guess it's,
Oh man, talking baseball to UK.
I know, right?
Well, I have been to a baseball game once, but I had no idea how the scoring
Yeah,
worked.
exactly. Like 350, he sucks, dude. Right, just get it.
All right. Well,
I'll continue.
go
I'll
for it.
continue. So we got like, one thing that's going to help us that really, one of the powers of meditation is just, us being present. Right. And there's been a lot of research out there. And one of the things that that's one of the terms that's come up through understanding mindfulness and meditation as core is like dispositional mindfulness. And it shows that meditation meaningfully improves the quality of attention we give to other people. Genuine listening, body anchored and present, actually noticing the person in front of you instead of just waiting for the person to talk or waiting for your turn to talk. And there's also a vulnerability piece here, like letting yourself be fully seen, right? Not performing, not people pleasing, present, but actually letting someone land with you. This is something that the practice makes possible in a way that almost nothing else can really replicate. So let's talk about what it feels like to be like truly present with someone, whether it's someone you love or whether it's just like someone, at the grocery store or something like that, versus, going through the motions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with that where do we feel most present, right?
Yeah.
Again, my kids and my wife are the people with whom I feel the most present.
Okay.
But there are times I have to be very intentional about it. There are times when I'm also the least present with them because I take that relationship for granted. Well, they're going to be my kids forever. Well, yes, they might, but I'm not going to have them as young children forever.
Mm.
Anyway, there's this museum or art studio, or I don't know what you really call it. It's very eccentric, for lack of a better term right now, but it's called Meow Wolf. And there's one room that's called the Perplexaplex, and it's light and music. And as you move through the room, the light changes. It follows you, and it's 360 degrees around you, 360 degrees top and bottom. And they play Mozart and they play all this classic music while you're in there. And it's very moving. But the kids run around and they have a ball. And I went in there 2 weeks ago now, and my two youngest were running around in there, and the light was following them. And I was fully present. And I tell you, I had a little emotional breakdown. I was like, this is what life is all about. Like granted, this may have been a little grandiose, but I thought if I died in this moment right now, I'm dying happy. Now, granted, that would have really set my kids off if I just died.
They would have been so happy.
They wouldn't have. But I was like, man, this is amazing. This is what true presence feels like. And those are the people and the times that I'm most present is when I'm with my kids, when I'm with my wife.
What comes to mind for me is that I've done a number of retreats called self-enquiry dyad retreats. Have you ever done anything like this?
I don't know what that is.
So what happens is two people will sit opposite each other in the retreat format. You make eye contact, and you're there together with your partner for 40 minutes. And there's 5 minutes where one will contemplate a question, such as "Who am I?" and the other one is a witnessing consciousness. And then after 5 minutes, you switch, and after 5 minutes, you switch back, and that goes on for 40 minutes. And on the retreat, you will do this from 6 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, and for a number of days. So what can happen when people are contemplating the question, "Who am I?" is all of their memories will come up, all of their pains, all of their traumas, all of their stuff. Now, if I'm with somebody and we're making eye contact and they start talking about some deep, dark, long forgotten pain, something they did, they hurt somebody, or something that hurt them really deeply, in that moment, I have to be this witnessing consciousness. So I'm not nodding along, I'm not smiling, I don't reach over and comfort them. All those things that we naturally do, you're not allowed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. You just have to be there to receive them, fully conscious, fully with it, but not judging in any way, because that gives them the total freedom to go say it. If I start nodding along, or if I get sad with them, then they might pull back or they might edit themselves. But you want to create this space where they can be completely unfiltered and confess everything if they want to, or break down in front of you if they want to. And so I've been in that situation where I've been many times the listening partner, and this person is, this complete stranger is pouring their heart out to me with what's coming up. And I've felt the full force of that. And then of course, I've also been on the other side where my stuff has come up, my traumas, all my dark thoughts, feelings, and emotions, the things that have happened to me have come up. And I've expressed that to the person opposite me, a stranger, but at the same time, another light of consciousness who is kind of joined with me in this situation. And all kinds of learnings came from this. One thing that comes to mind was that I noticed when I would get to a point where there was a lot of emotion, if I sort of started spontaneously crying immediately, especially if I was with a female partner, I'd cover my face. I put my face down and cover my face, because I realized there was this automatic sense of not wanting to be seen crying because it's shameful.
Wow.
And it goes right back to the playground, being kids, My mom was always like, "Don't cry, don't cry."
Yeah,
type
boys
of
don't
mom.
cry.
Yeah. And so I
Wow.
actually taught myself through these retreats that
Wow.
if the emotion is coming up, that I would allow it completely. I would cry, but I would keep
Wow.
making contact with the other person
Yeah.
and not drop it.
Wow.
And it was really, really difficult at first because everything in me is screaming, kind of push it down, cover it up. But yeah, I learned to be fully open in those moments. So those retreats are really powerful. Yeah, I
Oh, yeah.
recommend it if you ever get the
Oh my.
chance.
So what was that called again?
There's
What
loads
was
of
that?
different names for them, but mostly you'll find them under the name Enlightenment Intensive or Self-Enquiry Dyad Retreats. They're actually based on the old Zen style session, but instead of working on the koan who am I on your own, you do it with a partner. And there's something about that seems to get people to get in this place where there can be a spontaneous awakening, known as a kensho, a spontaneous seeing of your true nature.
Wow.
Will and I did something similar. I don't think quite to that level when we were in Costa Rica. I'm going to mess this name up, but I think it's Ho'oponopono.
No,
It's
yeah.
the Hawaiian. You sit across from someone, also a fellow retreat attendee, and you look them in the eyes and you say, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." And you don't discuss what it is you've done. You're just asking for forgiveness. And you say that over and over to one another. And holy cow, that was incredibly emotional for me. And I did sit across from a woman, and the feelings, emotions, and memories that welled up in me, I did cry. I cried my eyes out. And you're right. There was a feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting across from this woman. I'm being judged. But after about 5 minutes, I was like, no, I'm not. She's holding space for me. I'm holding space for her. And it was beautiful. Anyhow, sorry. I just had to interject with that experience. That was pretty powerful, right?
No, sorry. Oh, it's very powerful. I mean, it's really what we're touching here. A big part of what this practice begins to open up is compassion and self-compassion. Realizing that we're not alone in this thing. There is, like, in the sense of we're all human beings having a human experience, doing the best we can, and it's not about being perfect. It's just about, like, doing the best you can, and compassion and self-compassion, especially the self-compassion, really allows us to be better with ourselves. And when we are able to give ourselves that gift and actually leverage self-compassion as a practice, we're able to see other people. We're actually able to hold space for them instead of trying to fix them or turn away or because we're feeling uncomfortable, right? Like, it's not about you all the time. It's like, why don't you, just hold space for the other person is a huge gift of what my meditation practice helped me to do, is just hold space. But also, it's like, by being more self-compassionate with yourself, it reduces shame and defensiveness in your close relationships. So let's drop in and talk about compassion and self-compassion, and how has your relationship with your own flaws, right, actually changed, and how has that changed the way the people around you experience you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, what I've noticed is when I talk about mental talk, quite often these sort of voices just spontaneously arise in the mind as these thoughts. And quite often I can notice that these thoughts have a flavor of a younger me imposing itself on the present moment. And if I really pay close attention to this, sometimes I can see that it's a very childish voice that can arise in my mind. Sometimes it's almost comical. Like, my wife might do something and I might hear myself in my mind sort of complaining like a sort of 12-year-old or something. And I'll just think, where is this coming from? It's bizarre. But I think there was a period in my practice where I thought I had to conquer my mind and I had to get rid of this. And over time, what I realized is, like, oh, actually, none of this really needs to change. It just needs to be seen clearly. And I can actually open to it and I can allow it. And then I did experiment for quite a while with um, uh, allowing these sort of voices and these feelings in the body to sort of send messages through, in a sense, to sort of see what they related to. And when I did that, when I spent time um, with these feelings in the body and listening to this inner talk, it would often transport me back in my mind to times when I was younger, and I would see these memories of certain things happening. Maybe it was my parents arguing, maybe I was told off about something, maybe I was bullied, or maybe I was the bully. All these different things had happened. Um, and then what I came to realize is it's almost like I have all these, like, not an inner child, but little inner children frozen in time who
Yeah.
sometimes become active in certain situations. Um, and when I started to not try and handle them or wrestle them away or block them out, but actually say, like, okay, if something's coming through really strongly, I can even say to myself, say to this feeling, okay, I'm listening. What is it you want to say to me? What's coming up? And all sorts of messages might flood through from the deep subconscious in terms of memories, images, different mental talk. And I can just allow it and see it clearly, hold space for it, not try and argue with it or convince it that it's wrong in any way, but it's just being this channel to let all this flow through seemed to make a huge difference. And then a compassion for myself and for all these different parts of me started to blossom. Because before that, I think I was wrestling with the parts, trying to be something I thought I should be, especially as when I became a meditation teacher. And I've kind of let all that go now. I really don't mind the fact that I have certain dysfunctional parts and all of the rest of it, because it's all just the jigsaw that makes up me ultimately. As long as I'm not being hijacked or I'm not acting unconsciously in a way that causes lots of problems, then I really am, compassionate to the fact that there are things here which are functional, some things not so much, and it's all just allowed. It's all okay. It's all part of the expression of what's here right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's we've had Dr. Frank Anderson on several times to talk about the internal family systems part of psychology. And I mean, that's something that's really helped me to accept myself in a more caring and compassionate way, is noticing that there are parts that may come from my childhood that are there to protect me. You know, I was bullied as well. I moved from South Africa to the States when I was 7, and 7-year-old kids they can be mean. So I was picked on a lot and I had to overcome that. But a lot of it also made who I am. But there's still that 7-year-old boy in there that's protecting me from being hurt. As a matter of fact, I texted Will about this yesterday. Most bizarre experience I've had in a while. I was walking my dog down the road on the sidewalk, and this lady who lives in my neighborhood was walking behind me, same direction, and then she crosses to the other side of the road. And at the end of the road, we start to come together, and she's on her phone with her headphones on, and I hear her say to the person that she's speaking with, "I'm about to pass the husband of the couple that I like least on the planet right now." And the 7-year-old boy in me yelled at her, "You know I can hear you, right?" And she didn't respond, so I can only assume that she had noise canceling headphones in her and in her ear. And I started walking away, and I was furious, like my blood was boiling. Like I had, I planned on throwing the ball for my dog, and I was white knuckling the ball. And I did some breathing, and then I thought to myself, I was like, I don't know that woman. I don't know what it is she's been through. I don't know what, she's carrying today. And then I also went back and I was like, maybe I have inadvertently wronged her in some way. We talked about the flaws we all have. Well, we have blind sides too, blind spots. And maybe she's seen one of my blind spots and it was ugly. Yeah. And I'm not aware of that. And though I didn't go back and apologize because I haven't seen her again, maybe I will when next time I see her. But well, I wouldn't know what to apologize for. But that's neither here nor there. But
What's your fucking problem with me? Like, what's your fucking problem, mate? Please tell me.
How can you
I'm
not like
obsessing
me?
about that.
How can you not? What? You must have, clearly it's a case of mistaken identity. Oh, but anyway, I have this shirt that says, and I know this is a quote. I think it may have been Robin Williams, but I forget. But it says, "Be kind. You never know what battle someone else is fighting." And I
Wow.
had to say that to myself over and over about this woman. I'm like, I don't know her, and I don't know what it is she's fighting. But at the same time, I do know myself, and I know the battles I'm fighting, but I also know that with those battles, I have flaws. So maybe I have wronged her, and that has helped me. That self-compassion has helped me to give compassion to others, even when it's confusing. So, and what did you say, Jimmy, earlier? Everything is welcome. Everything, something to that effect. Basically, equanimity. So, that's where the compassion and self-compassion and compassion for others, as I've increased my compassion for myself, my compassion for others has also increased.
Wow. No, that's no, I think that was a really, I love the conversation around that. And I just want to say, that shirt, Robin Williams is one of my favorite all-time comedian
love him.
artists.
Yeah.
And look, and how did his life end?
Yeah.
So imagine what's
Sadly.
going on the inside for him to actually continually express that to the world.
Right.
Because I'm sure that was his mantra that didn't apparently work out that great at the end. But I mean, God bless that man. Rest in peace. He was a great dude.
Indeed.
I mean, we can take one lesson from, all the great things that he's brought us as an amazing artist and a great man in the world is to be kind, because you never know what someone else is going through.
That's right.
So, yeah. Wow.
Jimmy, any comments on that?
Yeah, I often find that, like, when I come across somebody who might be labeled as a bad person, or you could pick out sort of people who are in the popular culture at the moment and say, okay, we consider this person bad or this person dysfunctional. I often, when I look at them, what I think is, like, to be honest, they just seem confused. Like, that's what I think about. I'm not going to name anyone because I don't want the hassle.
But
I think
like, we know who you're talking about.
Certain politicians, let's say, I might kind of like, what I see is somebody who's so confused about the nature of who and what they are, how their emotions are rising, and it's all of the dysfunction that's been built up over a lifetime is now just driving the behavior. There's nobody at the wheel conscious who's able to drive the behavior in any way. And so I do have compassion for anybody who's like that, because they simply weren't exposed to this, or if they were, they didn't understand it, or they didn't have the capacity to understand it. I mean, I only found this kind of work because I was in such pain with the insomnia problem and the drinking and all the rest of it. So, I thought, oh God, I better take a meditation class. Maybe it'll help me to sleep. And then I realized there was a whole new way that I could experience life. But if I hadn't, I may have just continued going down that road on and on and on, and who knows what might have happened. So I often do feel that, everybody is just operating at the best they can. It's really not their fault, most of the time.
Yeah. There's not a lot of evil people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll start to come to a close here, but I think the next natural part is, like, we've clearly talked about meditation, clearly talked about various types of meditation. We've all experienced different types, and I think they can all be good in different situations, kind of all offer us different results. Kind of the analogy that I like to use is different doors into the same house, or maybe even different doors into different rooms of the same house, and you get different access. Each style, trains something a little bit different. And between the three of us, we've probably done many of the ones that are out there. For you, Jimmy, and for Will, what practice are you each doing most right now? And Jimmy, given everything that you teach, across Vipassana and Zen, self-inquiry, which one do you find yourself coming back to most, and why?
Yeah, good question. The practice I find is most portable and easy to do on the go, and can be applied in any situation is what I call see, hear, feel. So it's simply just being present with what's arising in terms of seeing, hearing, feeling, both outside and inside. I really like this because it can be used in moments when you are triggered or when there's stress coming up. Using the labeling as well comes from traditional Burmese Vipassana, but just using labels see, hear, feel in the moment to sort of take me out of any storyline, keep me super present in the moment. So yeah, that really works well. But I also like to really simplify it down to the absolute basics. So sometimes I'll do what I call just feel, which is simply just sitting and just kind of zoomed out, feeling the whole body all at once, the body sensations. And the body will then become after a little while, it becomes a cloud of kind of amorphous vibrating sensations. And I just sit with that for a while. Obviously thoughts will come, now and again, or emotions might come up, whatever needs to be worked with. But generally speaking, I just feel the whole body all at once. Everything's included, everything's allowed, like I always say. And that can be really nice. Or sometimes go into the shikantaza, which is the do nothing meditation, where it's everything is allowed to arise. Thoughts, feelings, emotions can come and go. The breath can breathe itself. Sounds can arise. Body sensations are known, but just don't get involved. That's basically the instruction you need. Don't get involved.
What was that one called?
Sometimes it's called just sitting or do nothing meditation or shikantaza. There's loads of different names for it. True meditation sometimes. But yeah, it's very, very simple. It's basically let whatever happens. And if you notice the intention to control your attention, drop that and do nothing.
I think I'm in shikantaza every morning when my alarm goes off, and I just lay there for a moment, considering my life and options, and the fact that I have to get out of bed. And I'm like, I'm sure we've all been there.
Have you guys seen there's this trend on social media, raw dogging, where people just sit and do nothing
on the plane
for hours.
Yeah.
So I made a video saying, "Hey, look, you're trying to do shikantaza. This is how you do it."
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice segue there, Jimmy. As we wrap up and people want to find you after this, I know we found you through Instagram on social media, and what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, to follow you, and then if they wanted to reach out to you, how do they go about that?
Sure, yeah. Anyone can find me on Instagram as That Meditation Guy. I'm pretty easy to find. Or just go to my website, delvedeep.com. There's plenty of info on there about courses and one-on-one coaching. So yeah, reach out to me via either of those channels, really.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, let's, I don't want to leave our audience hanging, but let's actually, Jimmy, what would you recommend? Where do people start? Like, we've talked a lot about meditation. Like, I myself, like, I do a lot of breathing practice. I just do a lot of breath practices for my meditation. I do self-compassion. I do gratitude. I try to do Vipassana like once a year, every other year. So I'm just there's so much out there. What would you recommend, and how would you recommend someone start with their meditation practice?
Yeah, I think everybody's different. So there are so many options nowadays. It's kind of easy to shop around. But what people need to pay attention to is their interests, opportunities, and necessities. So what are you interested in? Some people are really interested in Zen, for example, because it sounds really cool. And, you could, there's all these like interesting sort of koans and practices. But to some people, that just sounds weird. So what are you naturally drawn to?
There you go.
For me, it was all about I was just interested in something that was secular and not weird and could help me sleep. But then also they need to look at their opportunity. Like, some people can meditate for an hour, 2 hours a day. They're really into it. Other people, they don't really have the time. So it's about what practices can I bring into my life while I'm walking to work, for example, or while I'm driving. I get people to meditate sometimes while they're driving. The main thing is, only pay attention to the things that will make you a better driver. That's the main instruction.
There you go.
Don't close your eyes. And then the necessity, like, what do you need? If you're in a part of your relationship where things are going south, then you're going to need to work on the equanimity side of things. Don't worry about enlightenment. You really need to work with your emotions and your reactions and all of that stuff. So interest, opportunity, necessity is what people need to assess. And then from there, look at a practice that's going to fit in with all of that.
Right. There you
and
go.
then, so something basic and easy to start off with. So like breath practice, like you said, or feeling body sensations, plenty of things out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I'd add something that's repeatable, something you do again the next day, or at least you can commit to a few days a week to start, because it's the consistency. It's not like I'm going to go to a meditation workshop over the weekend and everything's going to change. It's not. It's going to go away in a few days and you're going to go back to the same patterns of who you are and how you do things. Right. So it's really committing to something that you can do repeatably and then just move through a consistency and watch your meditation practice grow, because you're making time for yourself, right? Which we don't often do. We're just kind of, a lot of people outside of this conversation, and even us sometimes, are just like, they just wake up and go on autopilot and just pick up the phone and go a million miles an hour, instead of taking time, reflecting, slowing down, being intentional, right? And then coming back and doing it next day and starting the day on your terms, or setting a time in the middle of the day or the end of the day to come back, to yourself and to get back to who you are and the peace that's within you. So this has been great, Jimmy. Thank you. Jon, anything to close?
Yeah, one thing.
Yeah, man.
I know we mentioned koans several times, Zen
Oh, yeah.
koans. I don't know how familiar our audience is with that term. Jimmy, could you just explain that really quick before we say goodbye?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jon.
Sure, yeah. A koan is like often that they can be like little questions or little bits of story, and they can be meditated on in a way that can bring wisdom that is not of the thinking mind. It's not conceptual wisdom. So just for fun, I'll tell you the one that got me interested in this. Years ago, I read a book by a guy called Henry Shupman, and he gave this koan in the book, and it just got under my skin. I just wanted to know so badly what this meant. And the koan was, what was my original face, the one I had before my parents were born? And so the idea is that you meditate on this question in such a way that you can have a flash of a kind of sudden awakening to the truth of what this koan really means. And you can see your original face and understand something about yourself. So yeah, that's what got me hooked. It just sounded so exotic and so interesting. I wanted to know desperately what my original face was.
Well, did you get an answer, or did anything happen? I got to know. Now come on, you can't leave us hanging here, right? Has the question been answered?
Yeah, funnily enough, I was on a retreat almost exactly 3 years ago, and the retreat ended, and I hadn't got the answer to the question, and I was about to go to bed, and one of the guys running the retreat said, "Oh, Jimmy, can I speak to you for a moment?" And I went and sat with him. And because the retreat was over, I just kind of let go. I'd stopped the practice, I'd stopped everything, and I was just in this space of like, relief. And he looked me in the eyes in that moment and said, "Tell me who you are," really intensely. And something big kind of flipped over in my experience, and I saw my original face. Yeah.
Wow. Very
that
cool.
was that was on one of those enlightenment intensive retreats. Yeah.
Wow. Right at the end. Wow. It's almost like divine intervention. This guy, like whatever's out there, I swear that like just kind of that we are sourcing when we meditate and not even wanting to source. And here this guy is like, tell me who you are. 'Cause, maybe the world, whatever, the energy, the divinity out there, like felt you were so close and you just needed that little bit. You just needed one more question and actually come from another person. And there it is. I mean,
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, this is the power of meditation right there. Another piece of meditation, how it can just open up doors that you never thought were possible. So
there you
awesome.
go. Well, Jimmy Wightman, thank you so much for being with us today. And I know we've said your name several times. It's not spelled like you may think for our audience. It's Wightman, Wightman. So look him up at that meditation guy. And Jimmy, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. Will, I'll turn it over to you to wrap it up.
I've said everything I need to say. Thank you, Jimmy. This has been wonderful. And anybody that's listening, it's like, where do you start? Where do you start? And we have a course coming up, launching. It's probably going to come out right around this time.
Yeah.
If that's something that's going to resonate with you, like check the show notes. We'll have a place to sign up for that. It's called Awareness to Action, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. So thank you, everybody. Jimmy, we thank you for being here today. Thank you. And for the work you're putting in the world, man. We're changing the world by doing this work. So thank you. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Jimmy.